There is a sorrow that visits many hearts only when it is too late. It comes quietly, often at night, often after the phone no longer rings, after the chair in the corner stays empty, after the hands that once fed us have turned to dust. It is the sorrow of realizing that we spent years trying to repay our parents with money, achievements, gifts, and success, while forgetting the one repayment that mattered most. We tried to give them comfort, but not always peace. We tried to make them proud, but not always understood. We tried to buy them safety, but not always help them walk toward freedom. What if the greatest gift a child can offer a mother or father is not a bigger house, not more medicine, not more expensive food, not even a long life, but a heart that becomes a lamp for them in this life and beyond it? What if true filial devotion is not only feeding your parents when they are old, but helping them plant the causes of peace, wisdom, kindness, and release? What if the deepest way to honor those who gave us life is to help them turn toward the path that frees the heart from fear? Many people think love is proved by sacrifice alone. Work harder, earn more, send money home, build a better room, pay every bill. These things are beautiful and necessary. The Buddha never told us to neglect our parents. He praised care, service, gratitude, and respect. But he also revealed something deeper, something that can break open the heart if we truly hear it. Even if a son carries his father on one shoulder and his mother on the other for 100 years, serves them, bathes them, feeds them, tends to them completely, even if he bears their weakness and their bodily needs with endless patience, still, the Buddha said, he has not fully repaid them. Why would the Buddha say such a thing? Not to make us despair, not to say our efforts are useless. He said it because the debt of our parents is wider than the sky. They gave us this body. They guarded us when we could not guard ourselves. They stayed awake when we were sick. They worried when we were late. They forgave us more times than we remember. They carried us in their blood, in their sleep, in their hopes, in their silent fears. Such a debt cannot be measured in coins or years. And yet the Buddha did not leave us with impossible sadness. He opened a door. He taught that there is a way to truly honor father and mother. If parents lack confidence in what is wholesome, help them grow in confidence. If they are not established in virtue, help them grow in virtue. If they are tight with giving, help them grow in generosity. If they lack wisdom, help them grow in wisdom. This is the repayment praised by the awakened one. This is the filial devotion that reaches beyond the body and touches the destiny of the heart. So today, let us sit together with this question, not as a lesson only for the mind, but as a mirror for the soul. How have you loved your parents until now? Through pressure or through tenderness? Through duty or through understanding? Through fear of regret or through genuine gratitude? And if you could offer them only one treasure before this life changes again, what would it be? More comfort for the body or more peace for the heart? Welcome to Buddha Peaceful Mind. If these reflections bring warmth to your journey, stay close to this space. Walk gently with us and let the teachings become part of your days, not only part of your thoughts. Tonight, we are not speaking about sentiment alone. We are speaking about a path that begins with gratitude but does not end there. A path that begins with service but grows into wisdom. A path that teaches us that true love does not merely protect the body for a few years. True love helps free the mind from greed, hatred, delusion, and fear. And this path can begin now, even if your parents are beside you, far away from you, difficult with you, or no longer alive in the form you once knew. Listen closely with your whole heart, because many people wait until the funeral smoke rises before they understand the meaning of filial devotion. Many wait until they stand before a grave, before they discover that money could not say what the heart failed to say. Many wait until the final hospital bed, before they realize that what a parent wanted most was not perfection from their child, but kindness, patience, and a heart that had learned what truly matters. This teaching is not here to wound you. It is here to wake you up. If there is still time, use it. If there is pain, soften it. If there is distance, bridge what you can. If there is regret, let it become practice. Because to honor our parents according to the Buddha is not only to remember what they did for us, it is to let their sacrifices become the ground from which wisdom flowers. It is to stop living carelessly. It is to stop wasting the human life that reached us through them. It is to turn gratitude into conduct, love into discipline, and memory into merit. And if part of your heart already feels heavy, if part of you is thinking, I did not do enough, I was too harsh, I was too late, stay with this talk. Do not turn away. Sometimes guilt closes the door that truth is trying to open. The Buddha does not teach us to drown in sorrow. He teaches us to transform sorrow into right action. Even regret can become a sacred thing if it humbles the ego and opens the heart. So let us begin where the Buddha began. Not with worship, not with empty praise, but with seeing clearly. Parents give life, but life is uncertain. Parents love, but they are impermanent. We love them, but one day we must lose the forms we cling to. If we do not understand this, our love becomes fear. If we do not train the mind, gratitude becomes attachment, and attachment becomes pain. But if we learn the Dharma, then love becomes spacious, gratitude becomes wise, and even loss becomes a teacher. This is why the Buddha pointed us beyond mere repayment through matter. Food is good, medicine is good, a warm blanket is good, a respectful voice is good. But a mind that knows how to trust in goodness, how to live ethically, how to give freely, and how to understand the truth of life. This is a gift no fire can burn, no thief can steal, and no death can erase. This is the wealth a child can help awaken in a parent. This is the repayment that shines in both worlds. As you listen, ask yourself gently, without judgment, which is harder for me, giving my parents money or giving them my patience? Buying them what they need, or becoming someone whose presence brings peace? Sending gifts from a distance, or staying near enough to listen with my whole attention? The answer may reveal more than you expect. And if these words touch something true in you, let that truth stay. Let it move slowly through your memories. Let it stand beside the faces of your mother and father, or those who raised you, or those who tried in the only way they knew. Because from this point onward, we are not talking about a theory of family. We are speaking of a living practice of gratitude. We are speaking of the Buddha's way of repaying an immeasurable kindness with an immeasurable heart. A young monk once asked an elder, "How should I think of my parents while walking the path?" The elder did not answer right away. He lifted a bowl of clear water and placed a pinch of salt into it. Then he said, "Taste." The young monk tasted and said, "It is salty." The elder then poured that same pinch of salt into a wide lake and said, "Taste again." The monk tasted the water from the lake and said, "It is fresh." The elder smiled and said, "Your parents gave you this life, and life carries joy and pain together. If your heart stays small, even a little difficulty with your parents becomes bitterness. If your heart becomes wide through understanding, then even their mistakes will not poison your gratitude." This little story does not come from a scripture, but its truth rests close to the Dharma. We often think filial devotion means seeing our parents only as saints, only as pure givers, only as beings without flaws. But as we grow older, we discover what every adult eventually discovers. Our parents are not only parents, they are human beings. They have fear, confusion, wounds from their own childhood, habits they never examined, attachments they could not release, and grief they never learned to speak. Some loved openly, some loved awkwardly, some were warm, some were strict, some protected us skillfully, some harmed us while believing they were helping. Some were absent, some were controlling. Some were broken by poverty. Some were broken by ambition. Some carried burdens in silence until silence itself became the family language. To understand the Buddha's teaching on honoring parents, we must hold two truths at the same time. The first truth is gratitude. Without our parents, this life would not have come to us. The second truth is realism. Parents too are beings wandering in samsara. They are not finished. They are not free from greed, anger, confusion, fear, and impermanence. If we cling only to gratitude and deny reality, we become sentimental and naive. If we cling only to their flaws and deny gratitude, we become bitter and blind. The middle way is to remember both. This is why the Buddha's teaching is so profound. He does not say, "Worship your parents and ignore the truth." He does not say, "Because they gave you life, everything they do is wise." He does not say, "Obey even what is harmful." Instead, he shows a deeper form of love. Help them grow in what is wholesome. Help them become established in what leads to well-being. In other words, love them enough to care for both their body and their direction of mind. Imagine a son who works overseas for 20 years. Every month he sends money home. He pays the rent, repairs the roof, covers medicine, buys a new refrigerator, and makes sure there is always food on the table. Relatives praise him. Neighbors say, "What a devoted son." One year he returns home for only a few days. His mother sits beside him on the porch. She does not ask about the money. She does not ask for jewelry or a larger house. She simply says, "Eat with me slowly. When you call, do not sound rushed. When I speak, do not answer as if I am a burden. I do not need you to buy more things. I need to feel that your heart is still here." How many children hearing this would feel a quiet pain inside? Because it is possible to provide everything except presence. It is possible to give comfort without tenderness. It is possible to send support without sending peace. The Buddha's teaching helps us see this clearly. Material support matters. It is an expression of care, but if our heart remains impatient, proud, dismissive, or harsh, then the gift is incomplete. A parent may live in a better room and still cry in loneliness. A parent may take expensive medicine and still suffer from the coldness of a child's voice. This is why real filial devotion begins in the heart. The Buddha praised gratitude, but he also praised the training of mind. A child who learns to speak gently, listen deeply, refrain from blame, and cultivate understanding is already offering medicine. A child who does not mock the fears of old age, who does not roll the eyes when the same story is told again, who does not respond to forgetfulness with anger, is already practicing Dharma. And a child who helps parents turn toward trust, ethical living, generosity, and wisdom gives something deeper than comfort. That child gives direction. Maybe you have experienced this in your own home. Sometimes what hurts elders most is not poverty, but the feeling that they no longer matter. Their steps are slower, their hearing weakens, their memories repeat, their hands shake. The world moves on without waiting. In such a season, a respectful presence can become more precious than gold. To sit down fully, to ask, "How is your heart today?" To hear the same story for the 10th time without irritation. To place food in their bowl with care. To speak their name with warmth. These small acts carry immeasurable dignity. But let us go further. The Buddha does not stop at kindness, because ordinary kindness can still be attached, fearful, and possessive. He points toward wise love. Wise love asks, how can I help my parents suffer less at the root? How can I help them rely less on anger, craving, and fear? How can I strengthen in them what will remain beneficial when the body declines and when death eventually arrives? This is where the 4 qualities enter, like 4 lamps in a dark house. Confidence in goodness, virtue in conduct, generosity in the heart, and wisdom in seeing. Before we walk through these 4 lamps, pause and look at your own life. When you think of caring for your parents, where does your mind go first? To money, to duty, to guilt, to fear of losing them, to unresolved conflict, or to gratitude? There is no need to lie to yourself. Honest seeing is the beginning of freedom. The Buddha never asked for decoration. He asked for truth. And perhaps here is another question for your heart. Which would your parents feel more deeply from you right now? Your success or your tenderness? Your achievements or your patience? Your gifts or your steady moral presence? Sometimes the answer is difficult, but difficulty is not the enemy. Difficulty is often the doorway to sincerity. In every age, children are busy. In every age, parents age. In every age, people assume there will be more time. Another visit, another apology, another meal, another season to practice patience. But impermanence does not make appointments. It does not wait until the family is emotionally ready. This is why the Buddha's teaching on parents is not sentimental advice for later years. It is urgent. It belongs to now. You may still have many years with your parents. You may have only months. You may have already spoken your last word to them without knowing it was the last. So let these reflections be gentle, but let them also be sharp enough to cut through delay. Gratitude postponed becomes regret. Wisdom postponed becomes helplessness. Love postponed becomes a wound. The path of honoring parents begins with remembering their kindness. It deepens by seeing their humanity. It matures when we stop trying only to comfort them outwardly and begin helping them inwardly. This is not force. It is not preaching. It is not controlling their beliefs. It is the art of becoming such a wholesome presence that trust, goodness, giving, and clear seeing have room to grow around us. The son on the porch eventually understood his mother's tears. He still sent money, but he changed his voice. He stopped treating conversations as tasks. He called without looking at the clock. He listened. He visited more often, even if briefly. He learned a simple evening chant and asked if she wished to sit quietly with him for 5 minutes before sleep. At first it felt small, almost childish. But those 5 minutes softened something in the house. Anxiety loosened, irritation weakened. The old woman smiled more. Nothing magical happened. Something better happened. The heart of the home became less hungry. This is how the Dharma enters ordinary life, not always with thunder, but with a changed tone, a slower meal, a kinder answer, a more awake intention. And from these small beginnings, the deeper repayment becomes possible. The Buddha said that if one helps one's parents become established in confidence, virtue, generosity, and wisdom, then one truly repays them. These 4 are not abstract religious words. They are living qualities that can transform the atmosphere of a family and the direction of a life. Let us begin with confidence, sometimes translated as faith, but better understood here as a trusting confidence in what is wholesome and true. Not blind belief, not superstition, not fear. The kind of confidence the Buddha praised is the confidence that goodness matters, that actions have consequences, that the heart can be trained, that kindness is not weakness, that honesty is not foolishness, that awakening is possible. It is the confidence that makes a person stand upright in the midst of an unstable world. Many parents grow old carrying quiet fears: fear of illness, fear of becoming dependent, fear of being forgotten, fear of death, fear that the family will fall apart, fear that all they worked for can disappear. When fear dominates the heart, it becomes easy to cling to rituals without understanding, easy to become suspicious, controlling, superstitious, or despairing. A child who helps parents grow in confidence does not laugh at their fear. That would only deepen it. Instead, the child becomes a bridge to something steadier. There was an old father who trusted nothing except money. He had survived famine in his youth. He had seen people betray one another. He believed that if you saved enough, controlled enough, and worried enough, you might survive. His daughter loved him, but every conversation became tense. He criticized everyone. He watched the news and became angry. He feared sickness constantly. He refused to give even a little to others because he said, "No one will help you when the world turns dark." The daughter wanted him to become softer, but when she argued with him, he only tightened. One evening during a power outage, the house went dark. The daughter lit a candle and sat quietly beside him. Instead of correcting him, she asked, "Father, in all the hardest years of your life, what kept you going?" He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Sometimes it was the kindness of one person, a stranger, a friend, someone who shared when they also had little." The daughter nodded and said, "Then perhaps not everything rests on fear. Perhaps goodness has carried you farther than worry has." The old man did not answer, but something in his eyes softened. In the weeks that followed, she did not preach religion to him. She simply kept returning to what was wholesome. She invited him to notice acts of kindness instead of only danger. She asked him to remember people who helped him in the past. She shared simple teachings about cause and effect, about the peace that comes from a clean heart, about how fear narrows life while trust opens it. Slowly, the father began changing, not because someone defeated him in debate, but because someone honored his suffering while pointing him toward a wider ground. This is how confidence often grows in a family. Quietly, through example, through gentle words, through repeated contact with what is wholesome. If your parents do not trust the idea of formal religion, do not force religious language upon them. Help them trust truthfulness. Help them trust kindness. Help them trust that calm is possible. Help them trust that a good heart matters. Help them trust that when the mind is trained, suffering lessens. In essence, this is already planting confidence. Sometimes confidence is nourished by very simple things. Reading one short teaching aloud, sitting in silence for 3 minutes together, watching the breath before sleep, saying a blessing before a meal, recalling the kindness of those who have passed. Visit a temple not to ask for luck, but to feel stillness. Listening together to teachings that soothe fear rather than inflame craving. If parents are open to it, speaking of the Buddha as one who shows a path of freedom rather than as a distant power who grants favors. This matters because confidence built on fear remains unstable. Confidence built on understanding becomes refuge. A son once told his mother, "I wish you would stop worrying." She answered, "Then give me a reason." He was surprised. He had thought worry was just her nature, but her answer revealed something deeper. People do not abandon fear because someone tells them to. Fear lets go when the heart tastes something more reliable. So the son changed. He stopped hiding his life from her. He became more honest. He kept promises. He reduced the chaos he created. His stability became her reason. In time, her worry lessened because confidence had found a place to stand. This is a profound lesson. One way to help parents grow in confidence is to become trustworthy ourselves. If we lie, lose control, indulge every impulse, speak carelessly, or create pain around us, how can our parents feel grounded? Our conduct teaches before our words do. A child who lives with integrity becomes an offering of reassurance. A child who walks the path sincerely can calm a parent's heart more than 1,000 slogans about peace. There is another side to this. Some parents carry religious forms, but not confidence. They recite prayers, burn incense, follow ceremonies, yet remain consumed by envy, fear, and anger. In such cases, helping them grow in confidence means helping them move from outer habit to inner refuge, not by condemning the ritual, but by softening the mind beneath it. The question is not whether incense burns. The question is whether the heart becomes less grasping. The question is not whether words are recited. The question is whether they become medicine. Maybe this is also true for you. Perhaps you speak kindly to your parents about the Dharma, but your own life is restless and scattered. Then begin there. Build confidence in yourself through practice. When parents see that meditation makes you gentler, that ethics make you more reliable, that gratitude makes you easier to live with, their minds may open without pressure. A house changes when one person becomes less reactive. A family changes when one person stops feeding resentment. Parents change more easily when they feel respected rather than corrected. This is why the Buddha's path is so subtle. It does not rely only on instruction. It relies on embodiment. Become what you want to share. So the first lamp of repayment is confidence. Help your parents trust what leads to peace. Help them feel that goodness is real, that the heart can be steadied, that life is more than fear and survival. If you can do this, you have already placed a precious jewel into their hands. And here a question rises for your own reflection. When your parents sit near you, do they feel more anxious or more peaceful? More judged or more understood? More pressured or more supported? More dependent on control or more able to trust life? Let the answer teach you where your practice begins. The second lamp is virtue. If parents are not established in virtue, help them grow in virtue. This can sound uncomfortable because people often think, who am I to guide my parents? They are older. They raised me. And yes, there must be humility. A child should not become arrogant, self-righteous, or harsh. But to help parents grow in virtue does not mean scolding them like a judge. It means supporting a way of life that leads to less harm and more dignity. Virtue in the Buddhist path is not merely obeying rules. It is protecting the heart from coarseness. It is learning to live in ways that do not deepen regret. When speech becomes cleaner, the mind becomes lighter. When actions become more harmless, sleep becomes softer. When habits are restrained, relationships suffer less. Virtue is not punishment. It is protection. Many families suffer not because there is no love, but because there is no discipline of heart. Angry speech is considered normal. Gossip becomes entertainment. Small lies become family style. Harsh criticism is disguised as honesty. Addiction is tolerated until it destroys trust. In such homes, people may still say they care for one another, but care without virtue becomes unstable. It turns warm one day and wounding the next. Consider an elderly mother who has spent most of her life speaking sharply. She is not evil. She is simply accustomed to expressing fear through criticism. She comments on everyone. She complains constantly. She compares one child to another. She speaks hurtfully without noticing the wounds she leaves behind. Her son, after years of reacting with anger, begins practicing mindfulness. He realizes that every time he answers sharply, the house becomes darker. One day, instead of returning insult for insult, he says gently, "Mother, when words become harsh, everyone in the room suffers. Let us try today to speak only what does not leave pain behind." At first, she laughs at him. Then she dismisses him. Later, she forgets and returns to her old style. But the son does not give up. He continues speaking respectfully. He changes the subject when gossip begins. He praises what is good rather than joining blame. He apologizes quickly when he himself becomes careless. Little by little, the mother begins to notice. The atmosphere is different around this child. He is not submissive. He is not cold. He is steady. His steadiness becomes a mirror. Months pass. One afternoon, she says, almost shyly, "I did not realize how much my words hurt people until I heard my own tone in your niece." That moment is the beginning of virtue. It is not dramatic. It is not announced with music. It is a simple seeing. Harm recognized. Direction changed. That is enough. To help parents grow in virtue, We begin with ourselves. If we ask them to be gentle while we remain impatient, our words have no roots. If we ask them not to lie while we deceive them for convenience, the lesson collapses. If we ask them to stop criticizing others while we spend our own evenings in contempt and sarcasm, we only add hypocrisy to the family. So first, train your own mouth. Train your own impulses. Train your own habits. A child of virtue quietly invites virtue in others. This can show itself in many practical ways. Refusing to engage in conversations that humiliate others. Choosing not to keep alcohol in the house if it fuels harm. Encouraging honesty in family money matters. Softening family traditions that revolve around cruelty, pride, or manipulation. Supporting parents in keeping promises. Helping them avoid actions that create obvious suffering. These are not grand gestures, yet they shape the moral weather of the home. Some parents carry guilt late in life for things they did when they were younger. They may not admit it openly, but you can feel it in their defensiveness or sadness. Helping them grow in virtue may mean helping them begin again. It may mean saying, "It is not too late to speak kindly. It is not too late to make amends. It is not too late to stop doing what hurts the heart." Virtue always begins now. The path does not ask whether the past was perfect. It asks whether suffering will continue to be fed today. There is another story of a father who loved gambling. At first it seemed harmless, almost social. But over the years, it became a poison. Money disappeared. Trust weakened. Anger rose easily. The family was never quite at peace, because beneath every ordinary day, there was instability. His daughter could not force him to stop, and argument only made him hide more. So she chose another path. She began bringing him into simple acts of wholesome routine. Morning tea without phones. A short walk after dinner. A weekly visit to offer food to monks. Quiet conversations about contentment. She never shamed him publicly. She never called him rotten or hopeless. She helped him taste another kind of joy. One evening, he admitted, "When I come home after gambling, my chest feels tight. When I spend the evening walking with you, I sleep better." That confession opened the door. Sometimes virtue enters not through moral command, but through direct experience. When people feel the relief of a less harmful life, they become more willing to protect it. In Buddhist teaching, virtue is closely tied to self-respect. A mind that acts against conscience becomes divided. A divided mind is restless. An old person may have a soft bed and many possessions, yet still be tormented by memories, by grudges, by actions that cannot be undone. But a person who speaks truthfully, acts with restraint, harms less, and corrects course where possible, begins to feel simpler inside. This simplicity is a profound gift in old age. If you can help your parents move even one step away from harmful habits and one step toward ethical clarity, you have done sacred work. Maybe the change is small. Fewer harsh words, less gossip, more honesty, greater restraint with intoxicants, a willingness to apologize, a desire to reconcile. Do not underestimate these things. Heaven is not made only of grand experiences. Peace is built from small, clean actions repeated over time. And if your parents do not change quickly, do not let disappointment turn your help into aggression. Remember, they also have karma, habit, temperament, and wounds. Your work is to offer skillful conditions, not to control outcomes. Offer example. Offer patience. Offer truthful words at the right time. Offer the climate in which virtue can grow. That is already beautiful. Ask yourself now, not to blame, but to understand. What habits in your family create suffering over and over again? Which of them have you normalized because they are familiar? Which of them are waiting for one courageous and gentle person to interrupt the pattern? Perhaps that person can be you. The third lamp is generosity. If parents are not established in giving, help them grow in generosity. On the surface, this may seem easier than virtue because many people like the idea of giving. But generosity in the Buddhist sense is more than making occasional offerings. It is the loosening of the fist around the heart. It is the training of the mind to trust abundance more than fear, to value connection over possession, and to discover joy in sharing. As people age, generosity can move in two very different directions. Some become softer. They realize how little can actually be held, and they delight in passing kindness onward. Others become tighter. They cling harder to money, land, food, routines, or control, because aging makes the future feel uncertain. Behind this clinging is often fear. Fear of dependence. Fear of irrelevance. Fear that if they give, nothing will remain for them. To help parents grow in generosity, we must understand the fear beneath the attachment. There was an old woman who kept every plastic bag, every broken container, every old receipt, every unused object. Her cupboards overflowed. Her children complained that the house was becoming impossible. When they tried to throw things away, she became distressed and angry. To them, it looked like stubbornness. But one granddaughter sat quietly with her one afternoon and asked, "Grandmother, what does it feel like when you let things go?" The old woman answered, "It feels like poverty is coming back." That answer changed everything. The family learned that her clutter was not just clutter. It was a memory of hunger. It was fear dressed as possession. The granddaughter did not force a clean-out. Instead, she began gently, one drawer at a time. She thanked the grandmother for how carefully she had protected the family through lean years. Then she asked, "Can we keep what is useful and give what might help someone else?" Together they washed blankets and donated them. They sorted kitchen tools for a poorer neighbor. They shared stored food with a local shelter. With each act, the old woman resisted at first, then softened. She saw smiles. She saw gratitude. She felt lighter. One day she said, "I thought giving would make me less safe. Instead, it makes my chest feel open." That is generosity, not losing, opening. Parents often teach children to save, to be cautious, to think of the future. This can be wise, but when caution hardens into miserliness, the heart becomes dry. Wealth without generosity breeds isolation. The Buddha repeatedly praised giving because giving cuts through the illusion that security comes from holding. Real security comes from a purified heart, from relationships of kindness, from karma shaped by care rather than greed. How can a child help parents grow in generosity? Sometimes by inviting them to share, not demanding that they do. Suggest offering food to the hungry. Support simple acts of kindness to neighbors. Encourage them to give time, knowledge, blessings, forgiveness, or attention if money is limited. Remind them that generosity is not measured by amount, but by the state of mind that gives. A poor person who shares one bowl of rice may create more joy than a rich person who gives much while resenting it. There is also generosity within the family itself. Some parents are generous with money, but stingy with praise. Some provide education, but withhold affection. Some pay every bill, but never say, "I am proud of your effort." Some sacrifice constantly, yet do so in a way that creates debt rather than warmth. A child can gently model another kind of giving appreciation, giving respectful speech, giving time, giving forgiveness, giving full attention. These gifts teach by resonance. A middle-aged man once took his father to buy a new winter coat. The father accepted the coat, but throughout the trip he complained, criticized prices, and spoke coldly. The son felt irritated and thought, "I do so much and he is never pleased." Later that evening, his wife said, "You bought him a coat, but did you offer him ease?" Her question struck him. The next week he visited again, not with an object, but with time. He made tea slowly. He asked his father about his own father. He listened to stories of hardship he had never heard. The old man began to cry, not over the coat, but over a memory of walking barefoot as a child in winter. Suddenly the son understood. What his father had needed was not only material generosity, he needed a space where his buried pain could be received. So generosity includes making room in our life for the unseen burdens of others. It includes not reducing parents to their roles, their demands, or their irritations. It means seeing that behind their habits, there may be old poverty, old grief, old insecurity. When this is understood, generosity becomes compassionate rather than performative. In Buddhism, giving has another beautiful function. It weakens the illusion of ownership. Nothing can be kept forever. Houses change hands, land changes names, bodies age and disappear, memories fade. The more deeply we understand impermanence, the more naturally giving arises. We do not stop using things, we simply stop worshiping them. Helping parents touch this understanding can be liberating. It can free them from the exhausting labor of guarding what cannot finally be guarded. One family made a simple practice. Every full moon evening, they placed a small basket on the table. Each person put something in it: a little money, a packet of rice, some fruit, a note of encouragement, even a list of chores they would do for an elderly neighbor. The parents, at first reluctant, came to enjoy these evenings. The basket became more than a basket. It became a reminder that the family was not living only to accumulate. It was living to circulate goodness. Over time, arguments about money lessened. Gratitude increased. The children learned that giving was normal, not extraordinary. The parents learned that sharing did not weaken the family. It strengthened it. If your parents are afraid of giving, do not shame them. Help them start small. A bowl of fruit for a neighbor. A quiet donation to a temple or hospital. A meal for a poor relative. A word of blessing to someone suffering. Even letting go of an old resentment is a form of generosity. The door need not open all at once. A small opening still allows light in. And let us remember something important. If your parents are already generous, then honor that generosity and help it mature. Support them so they do not give unwisely out of guilt, vanity, or pressure. The Buddha praised wise giving. Giving that is timely. Giving that does not feed harm. Giving that is accompanied by a bright mind. Helping parents give well is also part of loving them. Think of your own family for a moment. Where is the heart contracted? Around money, around praise, around forgiveness, around time, around control. Generosity is needed there. Often what we call family pain is simply love trapped inside fear. When fear loosens, love begins to move again. So the third lamp of repayment is generosity. Help your parents discover the joy of release. Help them feel that the hand that opens suffers less than the hand that grips. Help them experience that giving does not impoverish the heart, it enriches it. And in helping them become generous, you also train yourself. Because no one can lead another toward openness while living with a closed fist. The fourth lamp is wisdom. If parents are not established in wisdom, help them grow in wisdom. This is the deepest of the four, and perhaps the most delicate. Confidence steadies the heart. Virtue protects conduct. Generosity opens the hand. Wisdom frees the mind. Without wisdom, even good people suffer greatly because they still cling to what changes. Without wisdom, love becomes possession. Aging becomes humiliation. Sickness becomes panic. And death becomes a terrifying theft. Wisdom does not remove pain from life, but it removes blindness from pain. What kind of wisdom did the Buddha praise here? Not mere cleverness, not the ability to win arguments, not information. Wisdom is seeing things as they are. All conditioned things are impermanent. What is impermanent cannot provide lasting security. What cannot be controlled should not be clung to as self. Actions bear fruit. Mental habits shape experience. Greed burns. Hatred darkens. Delusion blinds. Compassion softens. Mindfulness reveals. Letting go liberates. This is the wisdom that turns suffering into a path. Many parents fear old age because they have spent their lives building identity around strength, usefulness, status, or control. When the body weakens, they feel reduced. When memory falters, they feel ashamed. When children become independent, they feel abandoned. A child who helps parents grow in wisdom helps them reinterpret these changes, not as punishment, but as the nature of conditioned life, not as evidence of failure, but as part of the human journey. When old age is seen with wisdom, dignity returns. There was an elderly mother who cried whenever she noticed new weakness in her body. If her hands trembled, she said, "I am becoming useless." If she forgot a name, she said, "My mind is gone." Her daughter tried to comfort her by denying the truth. No, you are fine. Do not think like that." But denial gave no peace. It only made the mother feel unseen. Finally, the daughter changed approach. She sat beside her and said, "Mother, this body has served you for many years. It is natural that it changes. What matters now is not pretending nothing is happening, but learning how to be gentle with what is happening." The daughter began reading simple teachings on impermanence, not in a heavy philosophical way, but in a human one. The seasons change, the face changes, the body changes, feelings change. Every meeting changes, every possession changes hands. She reminded her mother of fruit ripening and falling, of morning light fading into evening, of grandchildren outgrowing clothes. Slowly, the mother stopped taking change as a personal insult. She still had pain, but less humiliation. She began to say, "This is the nature of the body." That sentence was a form of liberation. Wisdom can be introduced in very ordinary language. We do not need to lecture parents as though giving a sermon. We can ask reflective questions. What in life has ever stayed exactly the same? What burden becomes lighter when we stop saying it should not be happening? What remains beautiful in a person when youth is gone? If death is certain, how shall we live now so the mind becomes peaceful? Such questions can open deeper seeing. A wise child also helps parents examine their attachments with compassion. Some parents cling strongly to one child over another. Some cling to family reputation. Some cling to old grudges. Some cling to the idea that children must fulfill dreams they themselves could not live. Some cling to property as if identity lives inside walls. Wisdom gently loosens these knots. It does not attack them. It reveals their cost. I once heard a story of two brothers fighting after their father died. The father had spent years saying, "This land is everything. Protect it at all costs." After his death, the brothers destroyed their relationship over that land. Their mother watched in silence and grief. Finally, the youngest granddaughter asked, "Grandmother, when great-grandfather died, did he carry even one handful of soil with him?" The old woman laughed through tears and said, "No." The girl then asked, "Then why are we burying the living for what the dead could not keep?" Her words pierced the family. Wisdom sometimes arrives through innocence. To help parents grow in wisdom is also to help them prepare for death without terror. This does not mean speaking morbidly all the time. It means normalizing the truth that life is uncertain and that a prepared heart dies more peacefully than an unprepared one. Encourage conversations about what truly matters, what regrets need healing, what forgiveness needs to be given, what attachments bring unrest, what qualities of mind bring refuge. When death is hidden, fear grows in darkness. When death is understood as part of life, urgency becomes clarity. Some children avoid all such conversations because they think talking about death is disrespectful or unlucky. But silence often leaves parents alone with their fear. A wiser approach is tenderness with truth. One day we all must go. Let us live so the mind becomes lighter. One day this body will stop. Let us not wait until the last breath to make peace. These are not cruel sentences. In the right tone, they are acts of love. Wisdom also includes understanding karma. Our actions matter. Not everything that happens is punishment, and not everything pleasant is blessing. Life unfolds through many causes and conditions. Helping parents understand karma can free them from the bitterness of comparing themselves to others. Why is that person richer? Why is that child easier? Why is that family luckier? Comparison is endless suffering. Wisdom turns the gaze inward. What seeds am I watering now? What mind am I cultivating now? How can I meet this moment in a way that bears wholesome fruit? A son once complained that his father was always bitter about the success of others. The father watched neighbors prosper and felt cheated by life. The son finally said, "Father, if another person grows rice in a good field, does your anger make our field fertile?" The father laughed, and the laugh broke the spell. Instead of feeding resentment, they began planting an actual garden together. The father gradually shifted from comparison to care. Wisdom often starts when the mind stops demanding a different past and begins tending the present. There is a special tenderness in helping parents grow in wisdom, because eventually, roles soften. The child who was once guided becomes a guide. But it should be done with reverence, not superiority. The wisest children remember that they too are aging, clinging, and learning. They speak to parents not from above, but from beside. If your parents resist direct teachings, then let wisdom shine through your way of living. Meet disappointment without collapse. Meet change without drama. Meet aging with dignity. Meet loss without becoming cruel. Let them see that the Dharma is not only words, it is how a person breathes inside impermanence. So the fourth lamp is wisdom. Help your parents see clearly. Help them understand change, karma, letting go, and the training of mind. Help them discover that peace does not come from controlling life, but from understanding it. This is the deepest repayment, because wisdom accompanies a being through every season, through old age, through illness, through death, and beyond the death of this body. Pause here and ask yourself, what fear most troubles your parents now? Is it sickness? Is it money? Is it loneliness? Is it dying? Is it losing control? Then ask, what kind of wisdom might speak to that fear? Not to erase it instantly, but to loosen its grip. Somewhere in that reflection, your own path of filial devotion becomes very clear. Now let us bring these four lamps together. Confidence, virtue, generosity, wisdom. These are not separate shelves in a library. They nourish one another. Confidence encourages virtue because we trust that goodness is worthwhile. Virtue supports generosity because a cleaner heart is less afraid. Generosity strengthens wisdom because letting go reveals impermanence directly. Wisdom deepens confidence because seeing clearly shows that the path truly works. When a child helps parents grow in these four, the household changes in visible and invisible ways. Imagine a family in which the father becomes slightly less suspicious, the mother slightly less harsh in speech, the grandmother slightly more willing to give, and the son slightly more mindful. From the outside, these changes may look small, but suffering often lives in repetition, in tone, in habits that seem ordinary because they happen every day. When those habits soften, the whole field of family life becomes more breathable. A woman once said, "My parents are not bad people. They are just always worried, always arguing, always comparing, always holding on." This sentence could describe countless homes. The Buddha's teaching gives us a way to respond without blame. Help them trust what is wholesome. Help them live more cleanly. Help them open the hand. Help them see more deeply. If these are present, even ordinary family life begins to carry the fragrance of Dharma. You may ask, what if my parents are not interested? What if they reject spiritual conversation? What if they say I am teaching them as though I know better? This is where skillful means matters. The Buddha praised wisdom not only in truth, but in timing. A seed thrown on stone does not sprout. Sometimes the most skillful teaching is silence while you embody the path. Sometimes it is a short sentence at the right moment. Sometimes it is a story. Sometimes it is a question. Sometimes it is serving tea with a peaceful face. Think of a home where the mother worries every night and cannot sleep. If you tell her you should meditate more, she may feel criticized. But if you say, before sleeping, shall we sit quietly for just 3 breaths together, she may accept. If the father is angry and cynical, telling him, you are full of unwholesome views, will only harden him. But if you ask, Father, when are you happiest these days? And gently lead him toward what is simple and kind, a door may open. Skillful means is not manipulation. It is compassion wearing intelligence. It honors the fact that every person opens in a different way. Some open through reason, some through tenderness, some through example, some through suffering, some only when old certainties fail. To help parents walk toward the Dharma, we must first understand their language of pain and hope. There was an elderly man who rejected temples and scriptures. His son stopped trying to persuade him. Instead, every weekend, he brought him to a park where children played and old trees cast wide shade. They would sit quietly and watch. Over months, the father began to say things like, "These children are carefree," or "The trees ask for nothing." The son would reply, "Yes, peace comes when the mind asks for less." The father nodded. A year later, he agreed to visit a monastery, not out of religion, but because he wanted the same quiet he felt under the trees. The path had entered through beauty, not doctrine. In another family, the mother loved ritual, but remained deeply resentful. Her daughter did not mock the ritual. She joined her respectfully, then afterward asked, "Mother, after chanting, does your mind feel lighter?" Over time, the mother admitted that her chanting often remained external. The daughter suggested adding one practice. Each day after prayer, release one resentment. The mother began with something very small. Slowly, the prayers changed from repetition to transformation. Again, the child had helped the parent move from form toward essence. This is why the Buddha's teaching on repaying parents is so living and wise. It does not command children to dominate parents. It invites them to become conditions for wholesome growth. Conditions are humble. Sunlight does not force the flower. Water does not shout at the seed. Yet both nourish life. Be like that. At this point, you may wish to ask yourself another gentle question. In my relationship with my parents, do I usually bring pressure or conditions for growth? Do I try to win, to correct, to prove, to complain? Or do I create space in which trust, goodness, giving, and wisdom can breathe? This question matters because even good intentions can become violence when driven by ego. And let us say something clearly. Helping parents grow in the Dharma does not mean becoming spiritually proud. Some children read a few teachings and suddenly look down on their parents as ignorant or worldly. This is not filial devotion. It is ego wearing a robe of wisdom. The Buddha praised humility, gratitude, and compassion. If your understanding makes you less respectful, then your understanding is not yet mature. Real Dharma makes a person softer, more patient, more careful with speech, more aware of suffering. It does not make one impatient with the slowness of others. So if your parents change little despite your efforts, do not turn bitter. Continue doing good. Continue embodying the path. Continue loving without clinging to results. Remember that karma ripens in its own season. There is immense beauty in this. A child may not see dramatic change in a parent, yet every respectful word, every patient meal, every act of generous care, every moment of mindful presence becomes part of the parent's experience of the world. Maybe they do not become saints, but perhaps they suffer less. Perhaps they trust more. Perhaps their death is gentler. Perhaps they leave with less fear. Do not underestimate the power of even slight light in a dark room. Confidence, virtue, generosity, wisdom. These four are not only what we offer parents, they are also what parents have always hoped deep in their hearts to see in their children. Even parents who chase status usually want their children to be safe, decent, kind, and clear. In helping parents grow in these qualities, we often complete a circle of love. The child becomes the continuation of the parent's deepest, most wholesome wish. If these reflections are nourishing your heart, you may keep this channel close by subscribing and returning when your mind needs a gentle reminder. Sometimes one teaching heard at the right moment can soften a whole week of confusion. Let this not be only inspiration. Let it become relationship. Let it become conduct. Let it become the quiet revolution of the home. Now we must speak of something tender. What if your parents are still alive, but the relationship is painful? What if there are wounds, disappointments, harsh memories, or patterns that make closeness difficult? The Buddha's teaching on gratitude does not ask you to deny suffering. It does not require you to pretend everything was loving if it was not. To honor parents according to the Dharma is not to erase truth. It is to hold truth with wisdom and compassion. Some people hear teachings on filial devotion and immediately feel guilt or resistance. They think, "You do not know my father. You do not know my mother. You do not know what I endured." This is a real pain. Some parents were neglectful. Some were violent. Some manipulated with guilt. Some used religion as control. Some broke the child's trust again and again. If this is your history, do not force yourself into false sweetness. The path does not ask for lying. It asks for liberation. What does liberation look like here? First, it means acknowledging the harm clearly, not exaggerating, not minimizing. Clearly, this happened. It hurt. It shaped me. Second, it means refusing to let the wound define the rest of your life. Hatred is understandable, but if fed for years, it becomes another chain. Third, it means finding the wisest expression of gratitude possible without betraying your own well-being. Sometimes the wisest expression of gratitude is physical care with emotional boundaries. Sometimes it is respectful distance. Sometimes it is speaking truth without cruelty. Sometimes it is not exposing yourself again to abuse. Sometimes it is offering support through others. Sometimes it is simply refusing to return harm for harm. Filial devotion is not slavery. It is gratitude guided by wisdom. There was a woman whose mother had belittled her since childhood. Nothing was ever enough. Even as an adult, every phone call left her trembling with shame. She wanted to practice the Dharma, but every teaching on honoring parents made her feel trapped. A wise nun told her, "Do not confuse compassion with surrender to injury. You may bow in your heart to the fact that this woman gave you life, and still choose a form of contact that does not destroy your peace." Those words freed her. She stopped trying to win her mother's approval. She reduced contact to what she could manage without collapse. When her mother called to criticize, she answered calmly and ended the conversation when it turned harmful. She continued sending medicine and arranging help when needed. She visited occasionally, with clear time limits and a steady mind. Most importantly, she practiced not to feed hatred. Over years, something shifted. Not always in the mother, but in the daughter. Her heart became less chained. That too is Dharma. If your parents caused deep harm, helping them grow in confidence, virtue, generosity, and wisdom may not look like intimate conversation. It may look like refusing to continue family violence in your own life. It may look like breaking patterns of addiction, lying, abuse, or contempt that pass down through generations. Sometimes the greatest gift you can offer your parents is to stop extending their ignorance through your own behavior. In this way, you honor life by purifying what was handed to you. There is a story of a man whose father drank heavily and spoke with rage. The son swore as a teenager that he would never be like him. Yet by the age of 30, he heard the same harsh tone in his own voice. It terrified him. That moment became his awakening. He sought help. He practiced restraint. He apologized when he failed. He studied mindfulness of anger. Years later, when caring for his dying father, he realized something profound. The best way I can honor this man is not by pretending he was gentle. It is by making sure the pain stops with me. This insight is a form of wisdom. It transforms inheritance into freedom. So if your relationship with your parents is difficult, do not abandon the teaching. Enter it carefully. Let gratitude be truthful, not forced. Let compassion include yourself. Let wisdom decide the shape of contact. Let virtue protect you from revenge. Let generosity appear as forgiveness where possible, or at least as the refusal to poison your own life with endless bitterness. At the same time, if there is still room for reconciliation, do not let pride close the door too quickly. Some parents soften late. Some apologies come in awkward forms. Some never say the exact words we long to hear, yet their eyes change, their tone changes, their dependence reveals their humanity. When possible, meet these moments, not for fantasy, but for peace. A man did not speak to his father for 12 years. The father had been harsh, controlling, and impossible to satisfy. When the father became sick, relatives urged the son to visit. He resisted until one night he dreamed of carrying a heavy stone up a hill. In the dream, an old monk said, "You do not have to like the stone, but you must decide whether to keep carrying it." The next day, he went to the hospital. He did not force a perfect reunion. He simply sat down and said, "We both lost many years." His father wept. It was not a complete healing, but something unclenched. Sometimes peace begins with a sentence that is honest and not cruel. The Buddha's path is vast enough to hold broken families as well as harmonious ones. It does not shame those who were wounded. It does not sanctify abuse. It shows a way to keep the heart clean while walking through difficulty. This matters greatly because a teaching that ignores suffering becomes another form of suffering. So hear this clearly. Honoring parents does not mean approving everything they have done. It means responding to the fact of your indebtedness and their humanity in the wisest way you can. Sometimes that wisdom is closeness. Sometimes it is distance with respect. Sometimes it is forgiveness. Sometimes it is grief. Sometimes it is service without sentimental illusions. All of these can belong to the path if rooted in non-hatred and clear seeing. Ask yourself now, if pain is part of your family story, what would wise filial devotion look like for you? Not what others demand, not what guilt screams. What would be honest, compassionate, and sustainable? When that answer begins to appear, walk it gently. The Buddha never called us to violence against ourselves in the name of virtue. He called us to freedom from greed, hatred, and delusion. Let your relationship with your parents move in that direction, however slowly. What if your parents are already gone? What if the phone will never ring with their voice again? What if the chance to apologize has passed? What if the person who carried you in childhood now exists only in memory, photographs, dreams, and the habits living inside your body? Then how do we speak of filial devotion according to the Buddha? First, we must say this with great tenderness. Love does not end simply because form ends. But Buddhist wisdom asks us to love without clinging to fantasy. The dead do not become our possessions. They continue according to causes and conditions, according to karma, according to the mysterious lawfulness of life. We do not know with certainty where any individual has been reborn unless one has extraordinary knowledge. And the Buddha warned against idle speculation. Yet he did teach that acts of merit, offerings, and wholesome conduct can be dedicated for the welfare of departed relatives. He also taught that grief cannot be healed by endless lamentation. It is healed through understanding, goodness, and letting the heart mature. Many people regret most not what they failed to buy for their parents, but what they failed to become while the parents were alive. I was impatient. I never listened. I argued about trivial things. I was ashamed of them. I thought there would be more time. These thoughts can become very heavy. If you carry such grief, do not use this teaching to punish yourself further. Use it to transform. A man once came to a monk in tears and said, "My mother died while I was busy building my career. I sent money, but I rarely visited. Now every success tastes empty." The monk listened and replied, "Then let your grief become generosity. Let your regret become virtue. Let your memory become wisdom. What you did not give in time, give now to the world in her name." The man began supporting a small clinic in the village where his mother had lived. He also changed his life. He visited elders. He spoke more gently. He stopped treating love as something to schedule later. In this way, his mother continued to bear fruit through his transformed heart. This is a powerful principle. If your parents have passed, you can still honor them by doing wholesome acts and dedicating the goodness to them. Offer food to monastics or to the poor. Keep the precepts. Meditate. Speak truthfully. Care for the vulnerable. Refrain from harming. Share the merit with gratitude. May any goodness from this act support the welfare of my mother, my father, my ancestors, and all beings. Whether one imagines this symbolically or literally, the inner effect is unmistakable. The heart becomes connected to gratitude rather than trapped in helpless regret. Some people keep their parents alive only through sorrow. Every remembrance reopens the wound. But the Buddha's way invites another possibility. Remember them through virtue. Remember them through generosity. Remember them through qualities that lessen suffering. Then memory becomes a field of practice rather than a place of collapse. A daughter lost her father suddenly. He had been a quiet man who rarely expressed emotion. After his death, she realized how much he had loved through action, repairing things silently, driving her long distances without complaint, waiting up when she came home late. She wept not only because he was gone, but because she had often taken him for granted. For a long time, every memory hurt. Then one day she asked herself, what was his best quality? The answer came immediately: reliability. So she made reliability her offering. She became punctual, dependable, and steady in caring for others. Each time she acted that way, she felt close to him without drowning in grief. She was not clinging to his form. She was continuing his goodness. This is another beautiful method. If your parents had wholesome qualities, embody them. If your mother had patience, deepen patience. If your father had honesty, become honest. If they had perseverance, kindness, or endurance, let those qualities live through you. In this way, gratitude becomes incarnation rather than nostalgia. What if your parents had many unwholesome qualities? Then you can honor them by ending the suffering they transmitted. If anger came through the family line, practice non-anger. If deception was normal, become truthful. If emotional coldness ruled the house, practice warmth. Offer that transformation as your filial act. Say quietly in your heart, may the pain that moved through this family stop with me. May any merit from this restraint and understanding be for my parents as well. This too is a noble repayment. Ritual can have a place here if done with understanding. Lighting incense, bowing before photographs, offering flowers, setting out food as a symbol of gratitude, reciting blessings, dedicating merit. These can be beautiful acts when they remind us of impermanence and kindness. But if ritual becomes bargaining or superstition, its power diminishes. The deepest offering is still the purified heart. There was a young woman who kept her late mother's room untouched for many years. Clothes remained hanging. The comb stayed on the table. A cup sat where her mother had last used it. The room became a shrine to unfinished grief. One day an elderly nun visited and said, "Your mother does not need a room preserved in sorrow. She needs a daughter who can smile with kindness in the world." The woman wept deeply. Over time, she cleaned the room, donated many belongings, kept a few meaningful objects, and turned part of the space into a place of meditation and charity work. Grief did not vanish, but it changed shape. It became love that could move. If you still speak inwardly to departed parents, let those inner conversations become wholesome. Instead of saying only, "Why did you leave me?" also say, "Thank you for what you bore." Instead of saying only, "I failed you," also say, "I am trying to live more wisely now." Instead of saying only, "Come back," also say, "May you be at peace wherever causes and conditions have taken you." These sentences free the heart from possession. And if tears come, let them come. The Buddha did not tell people to become stone. He simply showed that clinging adds unnecessary suffering to sorrow. Cry with understanding. Grieve with love. Then stand up and practice. If these reflections are helping you hold your parents with more peace than pain, you can return to this space whenever needed. Sometimes the mind heals, not from one dramatic insight, but from hearing the same truth gently many times until it settles in the bones. For those whose parents have passed, filial devotion is still alive. It lives in dedication of merit. It lives in wholesome conduct. It lives in breaking harmful cycles. It lives in continuing what was beautiful and transforming what was painful. It lives in becoming the kind of human being whose life would let one's parents rest more easily, wherever they may be. So if your heart carries regret, do not freeze. Turn regret into practice. This is one of the most merciful teachings the Buddha gives us. Even after death, Goodness is still possible. Even after loss, the path remains open. Even after the final goodbye, the heart can still bow in a way that nourishes life. There is also the practical side of filial devotion, and we must not neglect it. Sometimes spiritual language sounds beautiful, but if parents are hungry, cold, sick, or abandoned, lofty words become hollow. The Buddha never separated wisdom from compassion. To care for parents according to the Dharma includes ordinary duties carried out with respect. Food, shelter, medicine, safety, companionship, and protection from neglect matter greatly. The body may be impermanent, but while it is here, it deserves care. A monk once visited a lay family and found an old father lying alone in a back room while the household busied itself with ritual chanting in the front. The monk asked, "Who is caring for him?" The family answered, "We are making merit for him." The monk replied, "If your merit does not become warm hands, attentive ears, and proper medicine, it is not yet ripened into compassion." This is a hard but important truth. Dharma that bypasses duty becomes decoration. Many adults today struggle with this balance. Work demands are heavy. Families are scattered across cities and countries. Finances are tight. Caregiving can be exhausting. Siblings disagree. Old tensions flare under stress. In these conditions, it is easy either to romanticize filial devotion or to resent it. The Buddha's path asks for something humbler and wiser. Do what you can sincerely, without turning duty into martyrdom or avoidance into philosophy. If your parents need help with appointments, arrange them carefully. If they need medicine, support it without making them feel like burdens. If they move slowly, learn patience with their pace. If they repeat stories, listen as if listening itself were part of your practice. If they are lonely, remember that old age often shrinks the world. One visit, one call, one shared meal can become enormous. These things are not separate from the Dharma. They are where the Dharma learns to walk. There is a story of a man who loved listening to teachings online. He could speak beautifully about impermanence and non-attachment. Yet whenever his aging mother asked for small help, he sighed loudly and felt interrupted. One evening, after giving a thoughtful talk to friends about compassion, he returned home to find his mother asleep in a chair beside untouched food. She had been waiting for him because she was too dizzy to stand alone. The sight broke him. He saw that he had been using spiritual ideas to admire himself rather than soften himself. From that day on, he changed. He still studied deeply, but he let service humble him. Washing dishes became practice. Escorting his mother to the clinic became practice. Repeating answers to the same questions became practice. The Dharma had finally entered his hands. This is the danger of separating insight from care. If our spirituality makes us impatient with ordinary responsibilities, then it has become a subtle form of self-absorption. The Buddha did not praise clever speech detached from kindness. He praised the training that purifies intention and reduces suffering. Caring for parents can do exactly that. It exposes impatience, pride, control, fatigue, and unprocessed emotion. In meeting these honestly, the child matures. There is another layer here. Caring physically for parents teaches us about impermanence in a direct way. The strong hand becomes frail. The sharp memory becomes uncertain. The person who once lifted us may now need our arm to stand. These moments are not only sad, They are profound teachings. They show us the truth of the body more clearly than philosophy can. If we resist this truth, we suffer. If we allow it to deepen our tenderness, we grow wise. Some people ask, how much should I sacrifice for my parents? There is no single answer. Buddhism values balance. If you destroy your own health, your marriage, or your mental stability through unskillful caregiving, suffering multiplies. Wise care includes asking for help, sharing duties fairly, using available resources, and maintaining your own practice. A burned-out child may be present physically, but absent in heart. Sustainable care serves better. One daughter cared for her mother with severe illness for years. She loved her deeply, but exhaustion turned her sharp and resentful. Finally, a teacher told her, "Rest is not betrayal. If you do not refill the lamp, even love will flicker into anger." She began taking small periods for meditation, walking, and honest crying. She accepted help from a cousin. Her care became gentler again. This too is Dharma. Compassion includes the caregiver. To honor parents materially does not require wealth. It requires sincerity and creativity. A poor child who cooks with care, cleans a room, accompanies a parent to a clinic, or simply sits through the night when fever rises, may be practicing more deeply than a rich child who pays bills but never shows up in person. Again, money matters, but presence matters too. This teaching is especially important in a culture that often measures love by purchase. A child may feel ashamed of not being able to give much financially, but parents of wisdom often remember a completely different currency. The child who sat beside them during surgery. The child who did not speak harshly when stressed. The child who remembered what food they liked. The child who made time to hear the same old story once more. These are not small things. They become part of the final memory of a life. At the same time, do not hide neglect behind the excuse of spiritual intention, saying, "I am helping my parents cultivate wisdom," while refusing practical support when you can easily offer it, is not filial devotion. The body needs care while it lasts. Dharma flowers best where basic compassion is not ignored. So if you are listening and wondering where to begin, begin simply. Ask what your parents need in the most concrete sense: safety, a meal, medical help, transportation, financial stability, companionship. Then ask what they need inwardly: confidence, virtue, generosity, wisdom. Let these two dimensions support each other. Material care without Dharma remains incomplete. Dharma talk without material care remains hollow. Together they become a whole path. And perhaps this is the most human form of filial devotion. To hold a parent's trembling hand at the clinic, then later sit with them quietly in prayer or mindfulness. To cook soup and also speak gently about letting go. To pay for medicine and also encourage forgiveness. To clean the room and also clean your own speech. This is integrated love. This is the Buddha's path alive in daily life. Let us now speak to those who are younger, because many assume teachings on honoring parents belong only to adults, only to those with aging mothers and fathers, only to people already carrying responsibility. But the path begins much earlier. In truth, the way you speak to your parents in youth shapes the karma of your relationship for decades. Habits formed while everyone is still relatively healthy often become the emotional ground on which old age will later stand. Young people sometimes think, "I will be kind later, when life is less busy. I will understand them later, when I am more mature. I will apologize later. I will spend time later." But later has never belonged to anyone. The wise begin now, not by becoming artificially serious, but by learning a few simple things. To answer respectfully, to show gratitude without embarrassment, to help with small tasks, to notice sacrifice, to apologize quickly, and to remember that parents are aging even while we are busy becoming ourselves. There was a teenage boy who found his father annoying in every possible way. His advice felt old-fashioned. His jokes felt awkward. His questions felt intrusive. The boy answered in one-word replies and spent most evenings behind a closed door. One day, his father asked him to help fix a bicycle chain. The boy almost refused, but something softened, and he went. As they worked, his father began speaking about his own youth, about how he had once dreamed of becoming a musician, but instead worked in a factory to support the family. The boy had never heard this. Suddenly, the father became more than a rule giver. He became a human being with a hidden life. From then on, nothing became perfect overnight. The father remained imperfect. The son remained impatient at times. But the son carried a new understanding. Behind the parent he resisted was a person who had also lost dreams, carried fear, and tried in clumsy ways to love. This shift from role to humanity is a crucial part of maturing. It does not erase disagreement. It creates empathy. If you are young, start with little gestures. Put the phone down when your mother speaks. Look at your father's face when he tells you something important. Say thank you without sarcasm. Learn one thing about their childhood. Ask what they feared when you were born. Ask what they wished someone had taught them. You may be surprised by what opens. Many parents have never been asked sincere questions by their own children. Such questions can become bridges. And if your parents are difficult, begin with restraint. Do not multiply pain with careless words. A sentence spoken in teenage anger can echo for years. This does not mean suppressing truth. It means learning how to speak truth without contempt. This is already virtue. This is already dharma. This is already honoring your parents, even while disagreeing with them. For young listeners, it is also important to understand the hidden labor of parents. Food on the table did not arrive by magic. School fees, rides, repairs, sleepless nights, worries about the future, compromises in career, quiet sacrifices of comfort and pride. Much of parental love is invisible because it becomes the background of ordinary life. Only later do many children see the weight their parents carried. Wisdom begins when we stop taking the background for granted. One girl kept feeling embarrassed by her mother, who worked as a cleaner. She did not like friends seeing her mother's worn hands and simple clothes. For years, she kept emotional distance. Then one day, she saw her mother asleep at the table, still in work clothes, with a half-finished lunch prepared for the next day. The daughter noticed cuts on her hands from chemicals and rough surfaces. Something broke open. Shame turned into gratitude. She realized that the very life she wanted to display proudly had been built on those tired hands. From then on, she stood beside her mother differently. The mother had not changed. The daughter's vision had. This is why teachings on parents are also teachings on perception. We often suffer not because love is absent, but because we are blind to it while it is happening. The Buddha's path trains perception to become wiser, softer, and more truthful. Young people also benefit from learning the 4 lamps early. Help your parents grow in confidence by becoming honest and reliable. Help them grow in virtue by not dragging the household into chaos through reckless behavior. Help them grow in generosity by sharing and serving rather than demanding endlessly. Help them grow in wisdom by becoming the kind of child whose maturity calms rather than frightens them. These are living acts of filial devotion long before old age arrives. If you are a parent listening to this with your children in mind, perhaps ask yourself how you can also make it easier for your children to honor you. Are you open to change? Do you know how to apologize? Do you demand fear instead of cultivating respect? Filial devotion grows best in households where humility flows both ways. The Buddha's teaching is never a weapon for one side against the other. It is a call for mutual awakening. To the young heart listening now, consider this question. When your parents remember your youth many years from now, what taste will remain in them? The taste of doors slammed and eyes rolled in contempt, or the taste of simple respect, sincerity, and effort? You cannot control every memory, but you can shape many of them. Begin now. And if you think these teachings are only for old-fashioned times, look at the loneliness of the modern world. Families under one roof but living in separate digital universes. Meals eaten without eye contact, gratitude replaced by entitlement, guidance replaced by algorithm. In such a world, even one mindful conversation with a parent becomes a radical act. Do not underestimate the holiness of attention. The path of honoring parents need not wait for a crisis. It can begin tonight with one unhurried question, one act of help, one restrained word, one thank you spoken without embarrassment. These small beginnings carry immense karmic power. They shape who you become, and they shape the atmosphere in which your parents will age. Later in life, many people would give anything to ask one more question, hear one more story, offer one more cup of tea, or sit through one more ordinary evening that once felt unimportant. Since you are here now, do not waste the ordinary. One day, it will shine in memory like gold. There is a special challenge in our time that previous generations did not face in the same way. Many children live far from home. Work pulls them across cities and countries. Parents age in one place while children build lives somewhere else. Calls become brief. Visits become occasional. Time zones replace shared meals. In such a life, how do we practice filial devotion without being crushed by guilt? First, release the fantasy that love must always look the same. Physical presence is precious, but when distance is real, sincerity can still travel. A consistent call made with full attention is worth more than many distracted messages. Honest planning matters. Financial support given with warmth matters. Arranging care carefully matters. Sending teachings, encouraging wholesome routines, and maintaining emotional connection matter. Distance is difficult, but it does not make practice impossible. A woman working abroad called her mother every Sunday. For years, the calls followed a shallow pattern. Have you eaten? Are you taking medicine? I am busy. I will send money soon. They were responsible calls, but not intimate ones. One day, after nearly losing her mother to illness, she changed the way she called. She stopped multitasking. She sat down before dialing. She listened without rushing. She asked about feelings, not only logistics. She invited her mother to breathe with her for 1 minute at the start of every call. That single minute transformed the relationship. Even across oceans, the mother began saying, "When you call now, I sleep better." Technology can be used wisely or badly. We can hide behind it, or we can let it carry care. Send recordings of calming chants or reflections if your parents enjoy them. Share photos not to impress, but to remain connected. Schedule regular conversations instead of relying only on spontaneous guilt. Help organize medical information. Coordinate with siblings without turning every decision into conflict. Distance requires intention. Love becomes more visible when it is thoughtfully structured. Still, if you live far away, grief may visit you in advance. You may worry that you are missing precious years. You may fear getting the phone call too late. These feelings are real. Meet them with honesty, not self-torture. If you can visit more often, do so. If not, let the visits you can make be wholehearted. Do not spend them checking work, arguing about trivial matters, or rushing through obligations. Make tea, ask questions, record stories, sit in silence, take walks, look at their faces. Memory needs texture. One man returned home after 3 years abroad and was shocked by how much older his parents looked. His mother's back was bent. His father's hearing had faded. He felt a wave of guilt so strong that he almost spoiled the whole visit by being anxious and overcompensating. On the 3rd day, his father said quietly, "Do not come home only to be sad. Come home and be with us." The son understood. Guilt is self-centered when it prevents presence. He put it down and began paying attention. They cooked together. He asked about family history. He learned where the old documents were kept. He set up practical supports for the future. He also sat with his parents each evening in silence for a few minutes. Later, he said those evenings taught him more about life than many years of ambition. This is another important point. Filial devotion includes practical foresight. Have conversations before emergencies force them. Ask about medical wishes, financial arrangements, trusted helpers, and what gives your parents peace. Many families avoid these topics until crisis comes, and then confusion multiplies suffering. Wisdom prepares gently. For those separated by migration or work, there can also be hidden resentment. The child feels pressured. The parent feels abandoned. Neither says it cleanly. Misunderstandings grow. Here again, truthful and compassionate communication is a form of virtue. Say what is real. I wish I could be there more. I am carrying many responsibilities. I want us to use the time we have well. I may not always know how to show care, but I want to learn. Such honesty can soften projections before they harden into lifelong pain. Do not assume your parents only want financial success from you. Many parents say they want that because they think it will protect you. But beneath that, many want something simpler. They want to know your heart has not grown cold. They want to know success has not turned you arrogant. They want to know you still remember where you came from. They want reassurance that the sacrifices of one generation did not only produce more craving in the next. Distance can actually deepen gratitude if used wisely. When you live away from home, you may finally see how many invisible things your parents once handled. Meals appeared, clothes were washed, illness was attended, worries were hidden. Let that realization humble you. Let independence become gratitude, not superiority. For parents who are lonely, Encourage connection with wholesome community. Neighbors, relatives, temple friends, elders groups, walking partners, spiritual companions. No single child can fill every need, especially from afar. Helping parents build circles of support is a wise act of love. It also supports the first lamp of confidence and the third lamp of generosity, because community keeps the heart from shrinking around fear. And if you are a parent whose children live far away, perhaps hear this gently. Sometimes guilt burdens both sides. If love is present, release the demand that distance must equal neglect. Ask for what you truly need, not only through complaint, but through clarity. Bless your children where possible. A parent's generosity of spirit can nourish a child even across great space. The Dharma belongs to both generations. Perhaps some of you listening right now have not called your parents in many days or weeks because of busyness, awkwardness, unresolved tension, or habit. Let this teaching be a bell. After this talk, make that call if it is appropriate and safe. Not only to check boxes, call to be present. Ask one real question. Offer one real moment of listening. This is how the path touches ordinary life. When distance exists, let intentionality replace assumption. Let sincerity replace guilt. Let structured care replace vague promises. Let wisdom replace panic. And let every conversation carry at least a trace of the four lamps: confidence, virtue, generosity, wisdom. In that way, even miles become part of the practice rather than an excuse to postpone it. We should also reflect on parents as our first teachers. Before any school, before any scripture, before any formal instruction, someone showed us how to eat, speak, walk, endure, or respond to difficulty. Even when parents were unskillful, they still shaped the conditions from which our life unfolded. Some taught patience through their example. Some taught patience through the difficulty of living with them. Some taught kindness directly. Some taught us how necessary kindness is by showing what happens without it. In every case, life with parents becomes material for wisdom if we are willing to learn. A father who rose before dawn each day may have taught diligence without ever giving a speech about effort. A mother who went hungry so children could eat may have taught generosity more powerfully than 1,000 lectures. A parent who endured humiliation with dignity may have taught resilience. Even a parent who was deeply flawed may have taught the child the suffering produced by unexamined craving or anger. The Dharma can work with all of this. This does not mean romanticizing pain. It means refusing to waste experience. The Buddha was a master of transforming ordinary life into a field of insight. Family life is one of the richest fields because it touches our deepest attachments, expectations, and wounds. In relation to parents, we meet gratitude, irritation, tenderness, disappointment, dependency, fear of loss, and longing for approval. If we do not bring mindfulness here, where will we bring it? There is a simple story of a child learning to tie shoes. The father grows impatient and says, "How many times must I show you?" Years later, the father is old and cannot remember how to use a new phone. The child, now an adult, begins to feel the same impatience rise. In that moment, a memory returns. The father's frustration had once hurt deeply. The adult child takes a breath and chooses another path. "Let me show you slowly. We have time." In that small reversal, wisdom blooms. Family karma shifts. The child becomes the kind of teacher once longed for. Parents teach impermanence, perhaps more directly than anyone. We watch their hair gray. We notice the body weaken. We hear the same stories more often. We observe the confidence of middle age fade into the uncertainty of old age. This can frighten us because it reveals our own future. But it can also wake us. A parent aging before our eyes is a Dharma talk given without words. It asks, what are you doing with your own days? What are you cultivating in your own mind? If this body will also fail, what inner qualities are worth building now? Many people respond to parental aging with denial. They avoid visits because the change is painful. They avoid difficult conversations because they want to preserve the illusion of endless time. Yet the avoidance only intensifies future regret. Wisdom chooses to stay present. Yes, it hurts to see change. But change, seen clearly, can ripen love. Parents also teach interdependence. No one raises themselves. Even if our upbringing lacked tenderness, countless conditions still carried us. Food prepared, labor done, fees paid, risks taken, worries endured. Modern culture glorifies independence, but Buddhism reminds us that life is woven from support. Remembering our parents' role in that web humbles the ego. We become less intoxicated with the idea that we are self-made. Gratitude becomes a form of truthfulness. There was a successful businessman who often said, "Everything I achieved, I earned by myself." One day, at a family gathering, his aunt laughed softly and said, "Who washed your school uniform when you were 10? Who sold jewelry to pay your college fees? Who stayed up when you were sick? Who prayed when you went astray?" The man fell silent. It was not that his effort was unreal. It was that effort had grown proud by forgetting its roots. Remembering those roots softened him. He later said that gratitude saved him from becoming a successful fool. This is a powerful phrase, a successful fool. It means a person who gains the world outwardly while losing tenderness inwardly. The Buddha never measured life only by achievement. He measured by the condition of the heart. If honoring parents helps us become humble, grateful, and wise, then the teaching protects us from a very modern emptiness. Parents can even become our teachers of mortality, sitting beside an ill parent in the hospital, watching breath grow shallow, noticing the fragility of the body. These experiences strip away many illusions. Ambition, status, argument, and vanity suddenly look small. If we are attentive, such moments can redirect a whole life. We begin to ask better questions, not merely how to earn more, but how to live more truthfully. Not merely how to succeed, but how to leave this world with fewer regrets. In this way, parents continue teaching us until the final chapter. The challenge is to learn these lessons while there is still time to express gratitude. Wisdom delayed can become sorrow. So if your parents are still here, see them not only as responsibilities or emotional triggers, but also as mirrors and teachers. Ask what their lives are showing you. Impermanence, sacrifice, fear, endurance, clinging, love, loneliness, service. Each of these can become a gate to understanding. And if your parents are gone, the lessons remain. The way they lived and the way they died may still be teaching you. What in their life would you wish to carry forward? What would you wish to transform? What unfinished understanding are they still asking of you? Listen carefully. Sometimes the dead continue teaching through the conscience of the living. To honor parents as first teachers does not mean they were always wise. It means life used them to teach us something fundamental. The more mindful we become, the more clearly we see the curriculum. Gratitude then becomes more spacious. It includes not only appreciation for what was beautiful, but also insight into what suffering taught us. This kind of gratitude is mature. It is not childish idealization. It is a deep bow to reality. Through these two beings, however imperfect, this life came. Through their presence and their limits, many lessons arrived. I receive the lessons. I practice with them. I do not waste them. This is already a form of noble filial devotion. Another important dimension of honoring parents is speech. Words shape the emotional climate of a family more than we often realize. Many children remember the exact tone used by a parent decades ago. Many parents remember the exact sentence a child threw at them in anger. Words can nourish or scar. The Buddha placed great emphasis on right speech because the mouth reveals the state of the heart. To care for parents according to the Dharma, our speech should become more truthful, more gentle, more timely, and more purposeful. This does not mean never disagreeing. It means disagreement without contempt, honesty without humiliation, clarity without cruelty, silence when speech would only inflame, encouragement when fear dominates, gratitude spoken while there is still time to hear it. Consider how often families communicate through old roles rather than fresh awareness. The parent speaks to the adult child as if still speaking to a teenager. The child answers the aging parent as if still fighting childhood battles. No one is listening to the present moment. They are speaking to ghosts of former selves. Right speech interrupts this. It asks, who is in front of me now? What is needed now? What words reduce suffering now? A middle-aged daughter used to dread every visit to her mother, because within minutes they would fall into the same cycle. The mother criticized. The daughter defended. Both left wounded. A teacher gave the daughter one practice. Before answering, place attention on the breath and ask silently, will my next sentence add fire or water? This simple question changed her life. She began pausing. Sometimes she still spoke firmly, but without heat. Sometimes she redirected. Sometimes she chose silence. Within months, the visits changed. Not perfectly, but significantly. Her mother had less fuel to react against. One person's restraint altered two nervous systems. If you wish to repay your parents, purify your speech around them. Say thank you out loud. Many children feel gratitude but never speak it because it feels awkward or assumed. Speak it anyway. Thank you for taking care of us when things were hard. Thank you for the way you worked. Thank you for staying. Thank you for what you tried to do, even if it was imperfect. Such words can heal years of unspoken distance. Also practice apologizing. Some children think apologizing to parents makes them weak or childish. In truth, it makes the heart noble. A sincere apology offered before life ends can lift a tremendous burden from both sides. It need not solve everything. It simply needs to be honest. I am sorry for how I spoke to you. I am sorry for neglecting you. I am sorry for the ways I hardened my heart. Few medicines are as powerful as truth spoken humbly. Parents, too, may need encouragement to apologize, but again, this must be invited carefully, not demanded with bitterness. A child might say, "There are wounds between us, but I would like peace while we still have time." Such a sentence can open a path where accusation cannot. Speech also includes what we refuse to say. Choosing not to mock your parents' fears. Choosing not to shame them for physical weakness. Choosing not to weaponize past sacrifices during arguments. Choosing not to compare them cruelly with others. These restraints are forms of virtue and generosity at once. There is a poignant story of an old father whose hearing had faded. During meals, he often misunderstood what was being said and answered in odd ways. His children began laughing at him, then later became openly impatient. The youngest grandson noticed the old man eating faster and speaking less each week. One evening, the boy sat beside him and repeated the conversation softly into his ear whenever he missed something. The father, now grandfather, suddenly became animated again. The family fell silent. They realized the old man had not become less worthy of inclusion. They had become less patient. One child's careful speech restored dignity to the table. This is what right speech can do. It can restore a person to belonging. For those whose parents have dementia or confusion, right speech becomes even more sacred. We may not always be able to bring them into conventional truth, but we can bring them into safety. The tone matters more than the information. Reassurance may matter more than correction. A calm voice can become refuge when memory no longer can. And there is one more layer. How do you speak about your parents when they are not present? Do you mock them publicly? Do you reduce them to stereotypes? Do you parade their weaknesses for entertainment? Or do you speak with balance and respect, even when describing difficulty? This too reflects your practice. Gratitude and maturity are visible in absent speech as much as in direct speech. If your parents are no longer alive, speech still matters. Speak of them in ways that do not trap you in either idealization or resentment. Speak truthfully. Honor their kindness. Name the pain where needed. But let your words move toward understanding, not toward the endless rehearsal of blame. The stories we tell about our parents shape the stories we tell about ourselves. Choose stories that help the heart grow wise. Right speech is one of the simplest and hardest forms of filial devotion. It asks us to bring mindfulness into the very place where habit is strongest. Tone, volume, timing, intention. These are spiritual matters. The child who learns to speak to parents with respect and honesty becomes a blessing in the house. And sometimes, that blessing ripples further than anyone can see. There is a quiet illness in many families called postponement. We postpone gratitude. We postpone reconciliation. We postpone the visit, the question, the apology, the walk, the kindness, the patience, the shared silence, the learning of what our parents truly carry in their hearts. We live as though the ordinary days are endless. Then one day a diagnosis appears, or a fall happens, or memory begins to fade. And suddenly the mind cries out for time that was carelessly spent. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence is not meant to frighten us into panic. It is meant to free us from postponement. Everything changes. Therefore, do not delay what is wholesome. Death is certain, its timing uncertain. Therefore, speak while hearing is possible. Apologize while memory still recognizes your face. Practice with your parents while they can still receive the fragrance of your effort. A man once planned to visit his father after the next promotion cycle at work. He had already delayed for months. Then the call came. Stroke. The father survived, but could no longer speak clearly. The son flew home full of gifts and plans, only to discover that what he most wished to say now had no easy path. He sat by the bed repeating, "Thank you. I am sorry. I love you. I understand more now," while his father looked at him with half-formed words. The son later said, "I learned that urgency is compassion." This sentence is worth remembering. Urgency is compassion. Not frantic urgency, clear urgency. The kind that knows what matters and acts before conditions collapse. In Buddhism, this wise urgency is called samvega, a sobering recognition that life is fleeting and cannot be treated casually. Filial devotion becomes powerful when joined with this understanding. We stop waiting for the perfect mood or perfect family harmony. We begin with the imperfect life in front of us. Perhaps there are questions you still need to ask your parents. What were they afraid of in youth? How did they meet? What did they give up for the family? What pain did they never speak about? What do they regret? What helps them feel at peace now? What do they need from you, truly? Many people discover these things only after death, through old letters, relatives, or the ache of imagination. Ask while answers can still arrive through a living voice. There is also postponed gratitude. Some children assume parents know they are appreciated. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do not. Many parents carry a quiet doubt. Did my sacrifices matter? Was I only a source of pressure and not also of love? To answer this doubt can be an act of enormous kindness. You do not need eloquent speeches. One sentence sincerely offered can remain in a parent's heart for years. I see what you did for us. I know it was not easy. I am grateful. Why wait? Postponed reconciliation is another sorrow. We think, one day when they change, then I will open. But if both sides wait, life passes in mutual pride. This does not mean reconciling recklessly. It means considering whether ego is keeping the door closed long after wisdom would have opened it a little. In many families, the first softening feels impossibly vulnerable. Yet once one person takes the step, the emotional weather can change. A woman had not visited her mother for a long time because every visit ended in criticism. After hearing a teaching on impermanence, she made one decision. She would visit for an hour and bring no old script with her. She would listen, speak gently, and not defend herself unless truly necessary. During the visit, her mother, as expected, began criticizing. The woman breathed and asked instead, "Mother, what was hardest for you when I was little?" The question startled them both. Her mother began to cry. A buried exhaustion surfaced. They did not solve everything that day, but the visit became the first honest one in years. Postponement ended. Real meeting began. To practice now does not require grand drama. It may mean setting one regular evening each week for contact. It may mean arranging the medical visit you keep putting off. It may mean learning the family history while storytellers remain. It may mean saying thank you at the dinner table instead of only in your head. It may mean finally asking forgiveness. It may mean sharing a teaching or a silence with your parents before sleep. Do not underestimate one step done today. There is a beautiful paradox here. When we stop postponing care for our parents, we also stop postponing our own life. Because every act of sincere gratitude strengthens the heart. Every act of restraint in speech cleans karma. Every act of generosity loosens fear. Every act of wisdom clarifies priorities. We think we are helping our parents, and we are. But we are also being reshaped into less careless human beings. One old mother said to her son near the end of her life, "I am not afraid that I will die. I am afraid that you will keep living as if nothing important has happened." Her words cut through him. He understood that losing a parent is not only a personal tragedy, it is a teaching. It asks whether we will return to sleep or become more awake. So let impermanence become tenderness, not avoidance. Let it move you toward the call, the visit, the practice, the conversation, the act of care, the offering of goodness. Later is not promised, but this breath is here. This day is here. This chance to turn gratitude into action is here. If you are listening, and there is something wholesome you know you need to do regarding your parents, do not only agree with the teaching, let the teaching become movement, even a small movement. That is how Dharma enters karma. That is how wisdom becomes life. Now let us turn inward and examine something subtle. Many children care for parents from guilt, from obligation, from fear of judgment, from desire to appear good, or from the hope of inheritance or approval. Outwardly, the actions may look generous. Inwardly, the heart may be tight. Buddhism invites us to look not only at what we do, but at the intention that moves it. This matters because intention shapes the quality of suffering or peace we create for ourselves and others. Duty without love becomes heavy. Love without wisdom becomes entangled. Guilt without understanding becomes resentment. The Buddha's path transforms these mixed motives through mindfulness. We begin where we are. Perhaps you do feel burdened. Perhaps you do feel angry that your life is interrupted by caregiving. Perhaps you do feel ashamed of these feelings. Do not hide from them. Hidden motives ferment. Seen motives can be purified. A caregiver once confessed to a monk, "I serve my father every day, but inside I am counting. I think of all I have done and all he has not appreciated." The monk replied, "Then you are not only carrying your father, you are carrying an account book." The sentence was sharp but compassionate. The caregiver realized his service had become tangled with a demand to be recognized. He was not evil, he was human. Yet his heart could not rest because every act was measured. Over time, he practiced giving each task more freely. Not perfectly, but sincerely. He noticed that resentment weakened when he stopped turning care into a transaction. This is a profound teaching for family life. Parents did not care for us with perfect purity either. They also mixed love with fear, attachment, ambition, pride, and habit. We inherit this complexity. The path is not to pretend purity we do not have. The path is to gradually refine intention. May this act be less about image and more about compassion. May this visit be less about duty and more about presence. May this support be less about guilt and more about gratitude. Such quiet inner prayers are powerful. Mindfulness can help during ordinary interactions. Before calling your parents, pause. Notice what is present: irritation, hurry, obligation, tenderness, fear, hope. Then soften the body, breathe, and choose the intention consciously. I call to connect, not only to perform duty. I visit to bring ease, not to win. I listen to understand, not to defend. Even if the mind wanders later, this beginning shapes the tone. There is also the subtle desire to rescue parents from all suffering. This often comes from love, but it can become controlling. We want them to think as we think, heal at the pace we prefer, meditate if we meditate, simplify if we simplify. When they resist, we become frustrated. Yet wisdom remembers that each being has their own karma and temperament. The child can offer conditions, not total control. This recognition protects love from turning harsh. A daughter wanted her anxious mother to practice meditation. She sent books, lectures, and instructions. The mother politely nodded and did none of it. The daughter felt defeated and thought, "She wants to suffer." Then she realized that she herself was attached to the form of help. So she simplified. Instead of teaching meditation, she invited her mother to water plants in silence each morning. No labels, no pressure. After weeks of doing this, the mother said, "When I water the plants, my mind feels calmer." The daughter smiled. The essence had entered without the argument. This is wisdom purifying intention. Sometimes the purest service is very plain: folding laundry without complaint, bringing water without needing thanks, repeating information kindly, sitting through discomfort without dramatizing it. These actions seem small, yet they train selflessness. The ego wants dramatic recognition. The Dharma is often built through unnoticed goodness. At the same time, if you notice deep resentment, do not simply suppress it beneath holy language. Suppressed resentment leaks out through tone, passive aggression, emotional withdrawal, or burnout. Bring it to awareness. Seek support. Rest. Pray. Meditate. Speak honestly where appropriate. Service that destroys the server is not yet wise. Again, balance is essential. One of the most healing reflections is this: my parents too served imperfectly under the conditions they had. Some had little education. Some had trauma. Some had no model of tenderness. Some were consumed by survival. This does not excuse harm, but it contextualizes it. Context softens hatred, and when hatred softens, intention becomes more spacious. Try this reflection when caring feels heavy. This task is not beneath me. This task is my practice. Washing a parent's bowl becomes a chance to wash impatience. Listening to repeated stories becomes a chance to train attention. Scheduling appointments becomes a chance to practice steadiness. Responding to criticism becomes a chance to practice non-reactivity. In this way, filial devotion becomes a living monastery of the heart. And remember, gratitude itself can be cultivated. If it does not arise naturally, recall specifics: the fever they sat through, the school fees they worried over, the clothing they mended, the work they took, the risks they carried, the nights they did not sleep well because you were out late, the fear they hid when you were sick. Concrete recollection often awakens gratitude more effectively than abstract ideals. Intention purified by gratitude becomes light. The same action done from love feels different in the body than when done from resentment. This does not happen overnight, but every time you notice and redirect, the heart changes. So if you want to honor your parents deeply, do not only ask, "What am I doing for them?" Also ask, "What state of mind am I bringing while doing it?" The Buddha always cared about the inner quality of action. Outer service and inner cultivation belong together. When they meet, care becomes beautiful. There is another field of filial devotion that is often forgotten: how we treat other elders. The Buddha's teaching begins with gratitude toward one's own parents, but it can widen into reverence for age, vulnerability, and the human journey itself. A person who is kind only to their own parents, but dismissive of other elderly people, has not yet fully understood the teaching. Gratitude that matures naturally becomes broader. When you help another old person cross a street, speak respectfully to a caregiver, listen patiently to an elder who is lonely, or offer a meal to a retired neighbor living alone, you are honoring the same truth. Someone carried them once. Someone worried over them once. Someone hoped for their happiness once. The web of parental kindness is everywhere in the world, if we know how to see it. A young man visited his parents faithfully, but often mocked old people in public for being slow or forgetful. One day, his mother heard him do this and said quietly, "When you laugh at them, you are laughing at my tomorrow." Her words struck him deeply. He realized that honoring parents must include honoring the condition they are moving into. From then on, he practiced patience with elders everywhere. This widened his heart. Why does this matter? Because Buddhism trains us away from narrow self-reference. We begin with gratitude towards specific beings, but the insight can expand. We realize that all of us are passing through birth, aging, sickness, and death. All of us depend on care at different times. All of us long to be treated with dignity. When filial devotion widens in this way, it becomes compassion. This does not dilute the special debt we owe our own parents. That debt remains unique, but it protects us from a possessive kind of family morality that cares only for blood. The Buddha often widened moral concern beyond tribe and household. To see parents clearly is to see the universal vulnerability of human life. The old body, the trembling hand, the lonely heart, the need for patient speech, the fear of being a burden. These are not your family's private realities alone. They are human realities. This widening also helps when relationships with one's own parents are very painful or complicated. Sometimes a person cannot access gratitude toward their parents easily because of hurt. Serving elders elsewhere with sincerity can begin to heal the heart's connection to care and respect, not as a replacement, but as a bridge. Through compassion for another's old age, one may gradually soften toward the humanity of one's own parents. There was a nurse who cared tenderly for elderly patients, but had not spoken to her own father in years. One day she noticed that a patient's hands resembled his. The old man was confused and difficult, yet when she adjusted his blanket, he looked at her with helpless trust. Something opened in her. She realized that beneath her image of her father as strong, harsh, and controlling was also an aging human being who one day would be afraid and fragile. This did not erase their history, but it gave her a new entry point. A month later, she reached out. Another woman cared for her mother beautifully, but had little patience for anyone else. She once pushed past an elderly stranger in a market and snapped at his slowness. That night, her mother said, "Do you think someone else's child would not want him treated gently?" The daughter felt ashamed, but the shame matured her. She saw that reverence must become consistent. To honor age is also to remember your own future. Every impatient act toward an elder is a message sent ahead into your own karma. Every compassionate act is also a seed for the world you may one day depend on. In this sense, kindness to elders is both gratitude backward and wisdom forward. If your children see you honor your parents and other elders with dignity, they learn something beyond words. They learn how to inhabit a human life. They learn that speed is not the only value, that usefulness is not the only measure of worth, that tenderness toward fragility is part of maturity. In this way, filial devotion becomes cultural medicine. A family once made a practice of inviting an older widow from the neighborhood to dinner twice a month. At first, the children were bored by her slow speech and repeated memories. But over time, they began to ask questions. The widow told stories of wartime, hunger, resilience, humor, and loss. The children learned history through a living heart. More importantly, they learned reverence. Years later, when their own parents aged, patience came more naturally because they had already been trained to see elders as worthy of attention, not as obstacles. So when we honor parents according to the Buddha, we may also expand the circle. Care for elders where you can. Speak respectfully. Protect dignity. Offer presence. In doing so, you strengthen the very qualities that make filial devotion real. Gratitude, virtue, generosity, and wisdom. The Dharma rarely remains small when it is truly practiced. It grows from the household into the world. Perhaps after this talk, you might look around your own community and ask, is there an elder who needs a visit, a meal, a ride, a kind word, a respectful greeting? Such acts do not replace care for your own parents. They deepen the heart that cares for them. And a deeper heart is one of the greatest offerings we can make to any being. At this point, we may feel inspired, but inspiration alone can fade. So let us make the teaching practical. What does it mean in daily life to repay our parents in the way the Buddha praised? It means building small, consistent habits that align with the four lamps and with compassionate care. You might begin with a daily recollection. In the morning or before sleep, bring your parents to mind and reflect. These are the people through whom this life came to me. May I not waste the day carelessly. May my actions today bring them no unnecessary sorrow. May whatever goodness I create be for their welfare as well. Such a reflection can quietly reshape the day. You might adopt one practice of speech. Perhaps no matter how stressed you are, you will not answer your parents with contempt, or you will say one sincere word of gratitude each week, or you will ask one deeper question each month, or you will stop participating in family gossip. Simple speech practices can transform relationships over time. You might choose one practice of presence, a weekly meal together, a regular phone call without multitasking, a monthly visit, an evening walk, a short silence before sleep when you are together. These are not dramatic, but they prevent love from becoming abstract. You might choose one practice of service, managing medication, organizing documents, cleaning a room, teaching a skill patiently, bringing them to a wholesome community activity, finding support for things they can no longer do alone. Again, service becomes more beautiful when done without superiority. For the four lamps specifically, you might reflect like this. For confidence, share what is wholesome rather than what inflames fear. Speak of gratitude. kindness, or teachings that steady the mind. For virtue, reduce harmful habits in the home and embody restraint. For generosity, create opportunities to give together. For wisdom, normalize conversations about impermanence, contentment, forgiveness, and what truly matters. There was a family that created a very simple Sunday practice. They would eat together, then sit for 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, each person shared one thing they were grateful for, one unwholesome habit they wished to reduce that week, one act of giving they planned, and one truth about life they wanted to remember. The parents were skeptical at first, but over time, they cherished it. This little ritual quietly mirrored the 4 lamps: confidence in goodness, virtue in intention, generosity in action, wisdom in reflection. The family did not become perfect. They became more conscious. If you live with your parents, another practical approach is to notice the moments that repeatedly go wrong and bring mindfulness there first. The rushed morning, the noisy dinner, the criticism around household tasks, the tension about money, the impatience with slowness. Do not try to fix the whole relationship at once. Begin where suffering repeats most often. One mindful intervention in a recurring pattern can create surprising space. For those with parents who are ill or elderly, consider what spiritual support feels natural and welcome. A short chant, a reading from a teaching on peace, breathing together, gratitude recollection, loving kindness phrases, listening to calm Dharma talks, looking at trees, sky, or sunlight in silence. Wisdom does not always enter through abstract explanation. Sometimes it enters through calm, shared experience. If your parents are very resistant to anything explicitly spiritual, no problem. The essence can still be present. Encourage contentment over comparison. Encourage honesty over image. Encourage giving over hoarding. Encourage calm over needless stimulation. Encourage reflection over blame. These are Dharma in plain clothes. And remember to include joy. Filial devotion is not only solemn duty. Laugh with your parents, if possible. Recall old stories. Cook familiar foods. Walk in familiar places. Look through old photographs. Joy is also healing. A parent who feels only that they are a burden suffers. A parent who still experiences delight feels human dignity. Wise children help preserve appropriate joy. One grandson visited his grandmother each week and always asked her to teach him one small thing: a recipe, a song, a proverb, how to fold something properly, the name of a plant. These visits brought great happiness to the grandmother because she no longer felt merely dependent. She felt valuable. This is an elegant form of generosity and wisdom combined. When elders are allowed to transmit, they remain alive in a deeper sense. In practical terms, also prepare yourself. Study the realities of aging. Learn patience with repetition. Learn basic care skills if needed. Learn how to regulate your own emotions. Learn about grief before grief arrives. A prepared heart serves better than a shocked one. And if you have siblings, practice virtue with them as part of honoring your parents. Nothing pains many parents more than children who become enemies over responsibility, money, or inheritance. Disagreements may happen, but do not let them become poisonous. If you can cooperate, even imperfectly, for the sake of your parents' peace, That is a significant filial act. Consider writing a letter to your parents, even if you never send it. In that letter, say what you appreciate, what you regret, what you wish to do differently, and what blessings you wish for them. This can clarify the heart. Some people discover through such writing that beneath irritation lies profound love. Others discover hidden grief that needs healing. Both discoveries are useful. The path becomes real through repetition. Small good acts done consistently become character. Character shapes karma. Karma shapes destiny. So do not wait for heroic opportunities. Honor your parents through ordinary faithfulness. 1,000 small acts of respect, care, and wisdom form a much stronger bridge than one grand gesture performed too late. Let us return now to the essence in a quieter, more contemplative way. Why did the Buddha place such emphasis on parents? Because gratitude softens the ego. Because remembering dependence undermines arrogance. Because honoring those who carried us trains the heart away from self-absorption. And because family is one of the first places where karma becomes visible. There we see how actions echo across years, how speech wounds or heals, how habits are inherited, how suffering travels, and how it can be interrupted. In a world that constantly tells us to chase personal success, the Buddha's teaching on parents asks a different question. What kind of person are you becoming in relation to those who first cared for you? Are you becoming more humble, more responsible, more kind, more patient, more wise? Or are you becoming more entitled, more impatient, more forgetful of the conditions that made your life possible? This reflection is not meant to create shame. It is meant to restore proportion. We do not exist alone. We are recipients before we become achievers. We are supported before we become independent. Even the breath continues through conditions not of our own making. Gratitude is simply realism, softened by love. When the Buddha said that even carrying one's parents for 100 years does not fully repay them, he shattered the illusion that duty can be mechanically completed. There is no box to tick called done. Instead, he directed us toward inner qualities. This is stunningly beautiful. It means the highest repayment is not limited by wealth, status, or circumstance. A poor child can help parents grow in goodness. A child at a distance can still cultivate merit and wisdom. A child whose parents are difficult can still refuse hatred and break harmful cycles. The path remains open in many forms. This also protects us from despair. Perhaps you cannot give your parents a perfect old age. Perhaps finances are limited. Perhaps health is failing. Perhaps family conflict remains. If you hear the teaching superficially, you may feel defeated. But if you hear it deeply, you realize the Buddha is handing you a path that no circumstance can completely block. You can cultivate confidence. You can embody virtue. You can practice generosity. You can grow in wisdom and gently share it. You can dedicate merit. You can purify speech. You can reduce harm. You can become a calmer presence. These things are always possible to some degree. A poor laborer once asked a monk, "How can I honor my mother well when I can barely feed myself?" The monk replied, "If you speak gently, do not lie to her. Do not waste your life in vice. Share what little you have and help her trust what is wholesome. Then, though you be poor in money, you are rich in repayment." The laborer wept, not from sadness but from relief. He saw that dignity and love does not belong only to the wealthy. Likewise, a wealthy woman once offered expensive gifts to her parents every season, but rarely spent time with them and often spoke impatiently. She felt proud of her generosity until illness forced her to live with them temporarily. There she discovered how brittle her affection had become. By learning patience, humility, and daily care, she finally began the deeper repayment. Wealth had given comfort. Character now gave warmth. These examples remind us that the Buddha's teaching is both practical and liberating. It honors material care, but it does not reduce love to material care. It honors emotion, but it does not reduce love to emotion. It points toward the cultivation of wholesome qualities that endure beyond changing conditions. Sometimes people ask, why should I honor parents if they are imperfect? The answer is not because they are perfect. It is because gratitude and wisdom are perfective forces in the child. To practice them ennobles us. It frees us from the smallness of entitlement. It places us in right relationship with life. Whether parents fully deserve every form of reverence is less the point than whether the child's heart becomes noble, truthful, and compassionate through the practice. Still, Buddhism is not blind reverence. The nobility lies in combining gratitude with discernment. That balance is one of the deepest trainings there is. To say, I acknowledge the life that came through you. I honor the care you gave. I see the suffering you carried. I do not deny the harm where harm existed. I choose the path that reduces suffering for both of us. This is mature love. If you take only one thing from this long reflection, let it be this. True filial devotion is not only to support your parents' body, it is to become and to offer the qualities that support their heart. Bring them confidence where fear has ruled. Bring them virtue where harmful habits remain. Bring them generosity where the hand has tightened. Bring them wisdom where confusion and clinging cause pain, and where direct offering is not possible. Embody these qualities yourself and dedicate the goodness. The world desperately needs this teaching. Many families are materially connected, but spiritually starving. Many parents gave everything outwardly, but never learned inward peace. Many children succeed brilliantly, yet cannot sit with their own aging mother for 10 quiet minutes. The Buddha points to the famine beneath the surface and offers nourishment. So when you leave this talk, do not only think, that was meaningful. Ask, what form will this meaning take in my life? A call, an apology, a plan for care, a commitment to gentler speech, a donation in a parent's name, a vow to stop repeating inherited harm, a new evening practice with a living parent, a dedication of merit for a departed one. Let meaning become action. That is where liberation begins to touch the family line. Now I would like to speak directly to the heart, as though we were sitting quietly together in the fading light of evening. Perhaps your mother is in another room. Perhaps your father is asleep somewhere. Perhaps both are far away. Perhaps both are gone. Perhaps one face rises clearly in your mind and the other remains complicated, distant, painful, blurred by old wounds. Whatever your story, bring them gently into your awareness now. See the ordinary details, the way your mother called your name, the way your father walked after a long day, the tiredness in their bodies, the ways they tried, the ways they failed, the meals, the worries, the arguments, the sacrifices, the misunderstandings, the quiet acts no one praised. Let the image become human, not idealized, not condemned, just human. Now remember that they too were children once. They too had hopes, fears, confusions, dreams they could not complete, hurts they may never have healed. They did not enter parenthood already awakened. They entered as beings shaped by their own karma and conditions. Sometimes remembering this softens a hard judgment in us, not because pain is erased, but because humanity becomes visible again. And now ask yourself, what do I wish for them, truly? Not what I want to extract from them, not how I want them to validate me. What do I wish for them? Peace, safety, clarity, freedom from fear, freedom from regret, a softer heart, a good death, a wholesome rebirth, release from old bitterness, joy in giving, trust in goodness, wisdom. These wishes themselves begin to purify the mind. If your parents are alive, maybe you can speak some of these wishes through action. If they are gone, you can still hold them as blessings in the heart. In Buddhism, the quality of mind matters. A child who sincerely radiates goodwill toward parents is already shaping karma away from resentment and toward freedom. Perhaps you have never thanked your parents because emotion feels awkward. Perhaps they never thanked you either. Families often hide tenderness under routine. But tenderness hidden too long becomes starvation. Consider letting a little more warmth become visible. Not dramatic, not forced, simply visible. One sentence, one touch, one slower meal, one question asked without looking at the phone. Love does not always need eloquence. It needs sincerity. And if there is grief in you, let it teach softness. The grief of seeing parents age, the grief of unresolved issues, the grief of death, the grief of becoming the age they once were. Grief can harden into fear, or it can deepen into compassion. The choice is not made once. It is made many times in small moments of honesty. There is a gentle practice you might try. At the end of each day, reflect on 3 things. Did I bring any unnecessary suffering to my parents today through speech, neglect, or attitude? Did I offer any real goodness today? What is one step I can take tomorrow that would align more with gratitude and wisdom? This simple reflection, repeated over months, can transform a relationship and a life. Many people long for spiritual experiences while ignoring the sacred ground already beneath their feet. To bathe a parent, to forgive, to listen, to sit through discomfort without turning away, to restrain the tongue, to dedicate merit, to remember sacrifice and become humbler. These are not lesser practices. They are profound. They purify self-centeredness at the root. If you feel moved by this teaching, let it not pass like a pleasant sound. Let it enter the household. Let it enter the next phone call, the next visit, the next act of care, the next moment of restraint. The Dharma is not alive because we admire it. It is alive because we embody it. And for those whose hearts are heavy with regret, hear this one more time. Do not turn regret into endless self-punishment. The Buddha's path is compassionate. Let regret become the reason you practice sincerely now. Let it make you gentler with the living. Let it become generosity in memory of the dead. Let it make your own conduct cleaner, your own speech kinder, your own priorities wiser. then even regret becomes part of the path. If this reflection has offered you something nourishing, you may support this quiet space simply by returning, by subscribing, and by sharing these teachings with someone who is caring for parents, grieving them, or learning too late what truly matters. Sometimes a single teaching carried to the right heart becomes an act of filial devotion in itself. May the faces of our parents, however gentle or complicated, not be causes for blind attachment or bitterness, but conditions for awakening. May their sacrifices not be wasted in our forgetfulness. May their pain not continue through our unexamined habits. May the goodness we practice become a lamp for them and for us. Before we close, let us gather everything into one final stream of understanding. The Buddha did not say that parents are owed repayment because society demands it. He pointed to something deeper. Gratitude is the natural response of a wakeful heart to the support that made this life possible. Yet because life is impermanent, because all relationships are touched by aging, sickness, misunderstanding, and death, gratitude alone is not enough. It must be guided by wisdom. That wisdom teaches us not to reduce filial devotion to material support alone. Feed the body, yes. Protect the body, yes. But do not neglect the heart. If parents lack confidence in what is wholesome, help them find steady ground. If they are unrestrained in harmful habits, help them move toward virtue. If fear has tightened the hand, help them taste generosity. If confusion and clinging cause suffering, help them see with wisdom. This is the repayment the Buddha praised, because it supports well-being in the deepest sense. The path is not one size fits all. For some, it will be warm closeness. For others, respectful distance. For some, caring for living parents. For others, dedicating merit to those who have passed. For some, breaking painful ancestral patterns. For others, learning to receive parental love that was always there but poorly expressed. The forms vary. The principles remain. Those principles are simple, though not always easy. Tell the truth without cruelty. Offer care without superiority. Give without keeping an account book in the heart. Listen before advising. Remember impermanence. Do not postpone goodness. Let gratitude be specific. Let boundaries be wise. Let regret become practice. Let your own conduct become part of the offering. These are not separate from enlightenment. They are training grounds for it. If you still have parents, let this teaching move you toward them where that is wholesome. Not necessarily physically in every case, but inwardly, ethically, compassionately. If you have lost your parents, let this teaching move you from sorrow toward meritorious action. If your parents were difficult, let this teaching free you from hatred without forcing falsehood. If your parents were loving, let this teaching help you appreciate more fully what you received. Whatever your situation, the Dharma can meet you there. And now, I would like to leave you with two questions. When your parents think of you, or if they have passed, when their memory lives in you, what kind of heart does it awaken? A heart still trapped in complaint, or a heart ripening in gratitude? A heart hungry for approval, or a heart willing to offer peace? And the second question is this: if tonight were the last ordinary night before life changed, what is the one wholesome act you would not want to postpone? Hold those questions gently. Do not answer too quickly. Let them walk beside you. May all mothers be safe. May all fathers be safe. May those who cared for us be held in compassion. May those who harmed us awaken and cease from harm. May those who have passed be supported by the goodness dedicated to them. May those who are aging feel dignity. May those who are caregiving feel strength and tenderness. May we all learn to repay kindness not only with comfort, but with wisdom. May the merit of any truth, sincerity, or calm that arose through this reflection support our parents, our teachers, our ancestors, our children, and all beings moving through birth and death. May confidence arise where fear has ruled. May virtue arise where carelessness has spread pain. May generosity arise where grasping has closed the hand. May wisdom arise where delusion has darkened the mind. And may our homes become places where the Dharma is not merely spoken, but lived. If these teachings have given your heart a little more light, you can leave a quiet sign of support through a like by staying with Buddha Peaceful Mind, and by sharing this reflection with someone whose heart may need it tonight. Sometimes spreading one wholesome teaching is itself an offering to one's parents. Thank you for sitting here in stillness with Buddha Peaceful Mind. Carry this teaching gently into your next word, your next call, your next visit, your next act of restraint, your next moment of gratitude. In that way, the voiceover ends, but the practice begins.